All right, White House and Foreign Affairs correspondent Margaret Brennan has been following this whole thing. Margaret, today's meeting is going to be pretty interesting, I'd say, given President Trump's past comments grilling Chancellor Merkel over immigration, refugee policies. I mean, there's a lot of areas where they definitely disagree, and he's spoken very specifically about her.
He has, and the words have not been kind. She has said publicly since the election that she will work with President Trump on issues that she says need to be centered around basic tenets of democracy, human rights. I mean, when he won, she basically gave a public lecture trying to remind him what she thought needed to be said about American values. Keep in mind, President Trump is extremely unpopular in Germany right now. So when the German Chancellor meets with him, she's actually going to win political points back home for standing up and being strong. What we did hear extraordinarily on the campaign trail, because I really can't think of a single world leader who was pointedly referenced by then candidate Trump the way Angela Merkel was. He criticized China generally, Mexico generally, but very specifically again and again and again hit Angela Merkel. And that was heard clearly. She was very close to President Obama, despite the fact that his National Security Agency at the time had intercepted personal phone calls of her, something she was very upset about and made that clear. But the two, when he left office, President Obama referred to her as the world leader he was closest to. So this is an extreme change. But Angela Merkel is coming here hoping for a fresh start. She's bringing with her executives from German companies like BMW, like Siemens and others. That's a gentle reminder, not only that she's trying to speak President Trump's language here, but making the point that she is at the helm of the largest economy in Europe, the powerhouse of the economic union there throughout Europe, and she's central to NATO. She's also the linchpin in keeping together that sanctions regime against Russia.
Speaking of which, Margaret, the other thing that Angela Merkel brings to the table, the years of experience she has in dealing with Russian President Vladimir Putin. What could President Trump gain from this connection, especially on negotiations with regard to the Ukraine, or to Ukraine, I should say?
Right. Well, White House officials say that this issue of Russia is something that President Trump will bring up and essentially ask for her advice on, because Angela Merkel has tussled with Vladimir Putin for well over a decade. She's been in power for a bit longer than that, and she's currently running for re-election. But because Angela Merkel speaks Russian, Vladimir Putin speaks German. Remember, he, as a KGB spy, started off his career in then East Germany, where she grew up. She has been the conduit for most of the communication on behalf of the quote-unquote Western establishment for the past few years to push back against Russian aggression. And because Germany is such an economic power, without them wrangling the other European nations, these sanctions wouldn't really be held across the European Union if she didn't keep people in line. So I think she, from what I hear from diplomats, will be very frank in saying, yes, we can work with Russia to an extent, but make no mistake, when it comes to Ukraine, she at least, and many European leaders would say, if Russia is allowed to get away with annexing Crimea and interfering in Ukrainian elections, what other country is next? And that there needs to be a hard line there. So while it may hurt some American businesses, and it certainly hurts a lot of European businesses to have these sanctions on Russia, she's going to argue this is a matter of principle, and she doesn't want the United States to back down from that.
Right. Switching gears a little bit, I want to talk about the wiretapping allegations. And the UK is firing back at Press Secretary Sean Spicer. He suggested yesterday that the British government may have wiretapped the Trump campaign, maybe doing a favor for Barack Obama. Can you tell us what the response has been?
Well, to be clear, Sean Spicer from the podium at the White House was reading off a report that Fox News had first put out there, and this alleged that the UK was part of wiretapping of the Trump campaign. It was a Fox News report, but it seemed to be repeated and endorsed from the podium of the White House yesterday, and that was deeply troubling to one of our closest allies in the world, the United Kingdom. I've spoken to UK officials who said they made that clear to the White House, and they expected some form of apology or clearing up of this. We are waiting for the National Security Council here at the White House to make a statement. We're told to expect one. But it is extremely rare for British intelligence to release a statement saying this is absurd and that it needs to be ignored. Those are really strong words from an agency that operates in secret and very rarely communicates in public at all. So this shows you the seriousness with which it was taken. And we know 10 Downing Street, Theresa May, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, also made a statement saying we've been assured that the White House isn't going to say this again.
Margaret, it must be surprising for you and the other reporters in the room to have the White House press secretary, when asked questions about the president's allegations that former President Obama wiretapped Trump Tower, to have news reports read back to the press from various news organizations as the basis for
the proof behind the allegation.
That they need. It's remarkable.
Particularly when the question has been asked over and over again, can you provide proof? And we've heard from people in the intelligence community saying, well, there's no proof. And the proof is
news reports that generally articles. They say are fake news.
Right.
And now you've drawn in one of our closest allies.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of dust kicked up about this. I think it's very confusing to the public because of what you just laid out there. Logically, as rationally laying out an argument doesn't make sense. But when you have President Trump refusing to listen to Republican leaders, to Intelligence Committee officials, to intelligence officials themselves, former and current, it puts White House officials in a very uncomfortable place. They're doing backflips trying to defend their boss. And as you can see, getting themselves in some trouble doing it.
All right, Margaret Brennan, thank you so much.